I don't need chat then.
All right, what is up, guys? Welcome back. We are here for a very, very special episode of the Group Up podcast.
Okay, I'm gonna take over
with
SVB's
two
face.
developers from the Blizzard side, and I am delighted to have them here with me. So, how you doing, John, and how you doing, Jared?
Hey, doing all right.
Great. Thanks for having us.
Now, delighted that you guys could be here with us. So, for the benefit of anyone, before we get into the questions, I thought it would make sense if you guys would just kindly introduce yourselves, who you are, and what you do in the Blizzard team. So, let's start with John. I think, John, you're a bit more of a familiar figure to the Overwatch players. So go ahead and tell us about what you do.
Sure. Hey, everyone. So I am a VP on the Overwatch franchise and work on a whole bunch of different things, but focus on some of the marketing and community stuff, as well as the live operations of the game, our seasonal content plans, and some of the systems around that.
Awesome. And new to us, I think.
I don't have a bottom right. I have a top left, bottom left. Hold on. Hang on. All right, that's gonna be a little bit awkward, but I'm in.
I think is Jared. Jared, how you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm Jared Noose. I'm the executive producer for Overwatch 2. I have been on the game for like 3 months now. I think I started 2 weeks.
Okay, just an FYI, chat. We're like
so new to most
15 minutes behind. So
Awesome. And could you tell us like what your kind of handle in terms of responsibilities? Like, what is your role in the team?
Yeah. My role is a little bit broader than John's. Like to distill it down into one big thing, I'm kind of accountable for the game and like how it performs. And that's everything from, how do players feel like it's going? Like, are they happy? Are they unhappy about things? All the way over to like core KPIs or key performance indicators and that kind of stuff. So like, how is engagement? Like, are people sticking with the game, or are they churning out because they're bored or whatever? How are we doing on monetization? Stuff like that we'll talk about today. Pretty broadly, just making sure that we have like a good strategic direction and that we're heading, towards a place that we want to be. Like, what is the vision for the game? The details of that end up being executed.
oh man, I'm glad I don't have that job.
Keller, who are much smarter than I am and much more like clued into specific areas. So my job is really just about kind of setting the ship on a course and making sure that we're headed somewhere that's awesome.
No, I mean, you're being very humble there. You definitely you have fantastic taste in television shows. We found out the other day, which is Jared and I shared some Arrested Development memes, so he's definitely top tier with the humor, at least. And yes, chat, that is a doggo in the background, so essential part of all of this. So welcome to that. Now, just to get some points clear, we will be talking mostly about monetization, some stuff with PvE, some stuff with the new blog. And also just
they timed this perfectly with that
anything
blog post.
Please don't bother these guys with questions about balance or anything like that. Not their departments, as you've just heard. Okay, so I'm really excited to get some questions and answers with you guys. But before I get into kind of what I would perceive as community questions, I just wanted to get a feel for how things are from your guys' side. So you shifted from a box model to free-to-play. How's that been for you guys as a team? Like, how have you seen and received the switch to Overwatch 2?
Good question.
Yeah, I think our sort of broad take is generally positive. Like our number one reason why we shifted to the free-to-play model for Overwatch 2 was to significantly grow the game and give like tens of millions of players the chance to dive in and experience it, where previously needing to go out and buy a box had been a real barrier for them. And so like on that number one goal, we feel pretty good. Like we've seen that happen. We've been able to bring in all of the new players that we wanted to and everything else. But I'd also say like we've had some very real growing pains, and clearly transitioning into the free-to-play model has created some real pain points for existing Overwatch 1 players. Going into Overwatch 2, like the number one thing we'd always heard from existing players, particularly people.
Listen, I don't know why I have it on hand. It's just been sitting there for a while. I forgot to put it away. Okay, I haven't worn it.
People who had been in love with Overwatch and then stopped playing at some point over the last few years, like the number one thing in all of our research was always like they just wanted more content for the game. They wanted more stuff to play and experience. They wanted faster updates, more heroes more frequently, all of those types of things. And so that had been, I think at launch, like our number one focus was how do we each season deliver new and exciting content for players? But like the day that we launched, we started adding immediately to the list of yeah, that didn't work as well as we wanted it to, or we've got an opportunity to do this better.
Oh boy.
So I'd say like
Gotta be a long
generally
list.
we're proud of and feel good about the launch. But we also talk a lot with the team about how like October was really just getting to like the starting line of a long marathon and not hooray, we did it, everyone, like pencils down, celebrate. It really like in the live game strategy that we're in, every single season we need to make the game better and make the experience better for players, and so like that work's never done.
True,
Yeah,
I
that's
heard that
great
a
to hear.
lot
I
when I
think
was at
there's, obviously there is going to be
thing
growing
in
pains, but I do
August.
think that we've seen the growth in the audience of Overwatch 2, at least anecdotally from my side. I can see a lot of more viewers, a lot more interest in the community. So that
It's
part
been
is
back
great,
down
and
again
hopefully you guys
recently.
can continue to deliver an awesome product with Overwatch 2 as we go on. Now, are you ready for
But
some of the more
overall true.
potentially tricky questions? I know a lot of people have been wanting me to ask this, so I'm going to straight up say it. Why are the skins so expensive, guys? Why 1,900 credits for skins, which I read in the blog now, some of those will go down to 1,500, but still 1,900 for a skin compared to 1,000 for a battle pass. How do you guys figure out the price points for these skins?
I can already tell it's gonna be a very
Yeah, I'll start by saying
specific answer.
This is going to be a theme that I'll hit like on many of these topics, right? Actually, there's kind of like two themes. One is it's not like for any of this that we've set something in stone. We'll never change it. We'll never revisit it. I think in many of these cases, we've had to sort of take our best guess. But the minute that we launch any aspect of the game, we learn more about it in like the first 24 hours than all of the work that we could have done ahead of time in terms of what we thought for how something would go. So that's sort of the first point. And you can see that with the blog that we just released about season 3, where we are making some adjustments, for instance, to the pricing for the Overwatch 1 skins. So that's just sort
But
of
not
one
the new
example,
ones,
I think,
though.
of a place where
Those are still
we launched
1,900.
one way, we realized that wasn't quite hitting the mark. We made an adjustment. We think this is better. I don't think it's necessarily the perfect answer either. We're going to see how this does, and maybe we'll adjust again. But then I think the other sort of theme, just to sort of say it, like the game is free and the team is bigger than it's ever been and delivering more content than we ever have, and like that's not free. And so systems like the battle pass and shop really are the only way that we have to support sustainable ongoing development of the game. And so like a system like the battle pass has a bunch of goals. We want
No
it to feel
fear.
rewarding and engaging for players and fun as you progress through it and awesome as you unlock rewards. But like one of the goals for the battle pass is also to make money to support the ongoing development of the game. And so it's sort of, I think a lot of developers often shy away from saying that, but we feel like one of our responsibilities on the game is also that we want to be doing this for many, many, many years. Like we have a super long-term vision for Overwatch 2, and in order to support and do that, like, yeah, we also need some of these systems to be driving revenue every season in a way that that supports the team and all of that ongoing effort.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Just to
go ahead, Jared.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say just to jump in. I mean, I think one of the things to keep in mind is like a lot of thought does go into these things. This isn't some sort of like weird cash grab for
Dude, they're hitting all the one, dude.
What we have to do is try to find that balance between what we think people will be excited to or willing to pay for something that they love, but also what do we think will actually help us to grow the team that we need to be able to add new content all the time. And like in a game where you drop it for $60 and then you have some sort of like stream of income after that, like over time, sort of the amount of operating room that you have with your budget gets lower and lower, right? And so because we're trying to set up a like very steady consistently growing baseline for the game, we have to be a little bit cautious in where we set things to start. And I think it's been true of every game launch I've ever been a part of, that you are always surprised by some number of things out of the gate, right? It's like that Mike Tyson quote about everybody having a plan until they get punched in the mouth. That's super true, right? And sometimes you have an idea of something that's going to work perfectly, and it doesn't. And then sometimes you toss in some like
This
really
is a
small
Mike
thing that
Tyson
you think
quote.
no one
Holy
really knows,
shit.
and it becomes like kind of the key to the game. And so I think we're still in that sort of learning phase from launch. And all these things will be revisited constantly over time.
I appreciate that. I appreciate it's about finding the balance between what's fair for you guys in terms of making money so you can continue to make this game versus what's fair to the players. I also want to quickly acknowledge, if you guys see frame drops occasionally, it's just because my internet service provider is screwing me. If you miss any part of it because of frame drops, all of this will go straight onto YouTube without any of those frame drops. So if you're like, what did John say for the first 5 seconds of that? It'll be on the YouTube in a bit. So apologies for that. How much time does it take to make like a legendary skin? Like, we know the Mythic, you guys said, takes like a year, but like how much dev work does it take to make like a legendary skin?
It's something like, I mean, they're all a little bit different, and I think it's important to call out that like this is maybe intuitive to everybody, but a skin for Diva obviously takes a lot more because you have 2 different models that you're working with. Ramatra has additional costs. Like these things are all a little bit different from each other, but generally like 5 months is around the cost for a legendary skin. And that's spread across like...
So this is actually very important. This is a very important... We've never heard this before. The reason this is important is because certain things like drops, people have talked about. Drops have been happening very, very frequently on Twitch. And people are like, well, there's not new drops. Like, they're just screwing us. Like, if they started to plan to do drops, like, pretty frequently, let's say in October, like, they figured out, oh my God, like, Twitch hits hard, like, it keeps a creator happy, whatever it is. They are already having to plan 5 months down the line, minimum, to start looking for skins for those types of events. We're at 3.5 to 4 months at this point. So it's like having the reuse skins for drops, just drops, makes a lot of sense. And it's also why I kind of didn't understand why people were really, really upset about it. And like, oh, what the heck, the drops, they're screwing all the people that already had it. It's like, yeah, you already had it though. So like, you're not losing anything. Like, people that just don't have it are getting something. They're getting to catch up, so it's,
8 disciplines or something like that. I mean, I think it's also easy to forget all the work that has to go into it. It's like, well, it's just an artist and they're making the new model, and that's not true. Like, it's an artist, it's visual effects, it's tech artists, it's the people that support those people, it's quality assurance, it's producers, it's there's a lot that goes into it. So short answer, about 5 months.
Wow,
I don't think we've ever heard that before.
Okay, that's fair. And I think when you price skins for that, that's fair. I was gonna ask you, with that taking 5 months, how come Overwatch 1 skins still cost so much? But I read in the blog posts before we went live that you guys are going to be making Overwatch 1 skins available for legacy credits. Is that correct? Do you want to kind of elaborate on why people were upset that Overwatch 1 skins were costing as much as Overwatch 2 skins? So kind of why you've made that change now and how you approach it from your side.
Well, because it was easy.
Yeah, I think this is like one of the really good examples of we launched one way and then pretty quickly realized that adjusting course was going to help make the game better. And some of these things, I know for a lot of sources of community frustration, it's always like, why did it take until season 3? Like, why couldn't you do that tomorrow? And some of these things are topics that we've been talking about for a while, and this is sort of just the first time that we've been able to take meaningful steps toward adjusting. And we've seen this in, like, at the end of,
how long do you think they've been talking about that?
We did a pretty comprehensive study with players from all over the world, just asking, like, what did you like about season 1? What are your biggest issues with Overwatch 2? And like, I know that the community likes to jump on all of these price things, but the way in that research actually that it sort of came up was less like skins cost too much and more the game doesn't feel that rewarding to me anymore. Or
true.
I don't feel
this is actually so big. This is so big. I
have a real path to earning things that I'm excited about at times. And so one of the reasons why we took the approach that we did now was first, like, yeah, let's lower the prices a little bit on those skins and just make them generally better value for players. But then the reason why we went through and added credits into the free battle pass that are enough where in any season players can go into the hero gallery
and make the choice
one of those Overwatch 1 event skins that they love and earn that skin was really addressing that point of like, how do we start to make the game feel more rewarding, regardless of whether you choose to spend it all or not. And so that's sort of what underpinned that was that desire. And by the way, like, we know that this is just kind of, again, like one thing that we could do. There's no one on our team that is like mission accomplished. We did it. But we do feel like this is one significant step that we could take quickly to start addressing some of that feedback of how do we make the game feel more rewarding for players.
True. Progression systems is actually
Yeah, I
a
appreciate
big
that.
problem
Actually,
with
that's something that was
Overwatch.
mentioned
There's
as well.
nothing
I
to
have a
play
couple more
for.
questions on the battle pass, but I think it's a good point to talk about now.
Or grind for,
You
sorry.
guys have announced that you're kind of looking at more features to encourage players to reward, because there has been a community sentiment that doesn't seem to be like a reason to grind Overwatch. Like, if you don't want certain cosmetics on the battle pass, if you don't want certain titles, what is the point of continuing to play? So you guys mentioned class or role / hero specific progression systems on Fire. Like, can you give us a little bit of insight into what you are looking at to kind of help a player want to continue to play Overwatch?
Yeah, I'll jump in on that. I think it's a combination of a bunch of stuff. Games are weird in that, like, I think people will often point to one specific thing as, this is the thing that made that experience great, and really it's a combination of big things and small things. And so when I think about our approach, what we're prioritizing is, a bunch of like very small things that we think have a meaningful impact. So can we make the end of game or like end of match flow more rewarding, right? We know that it feels kind of like short and truncated and like not very celebratory in the way that Overwatch 1's did. So looking at changes there, things like bringing back the on fire system, which is kind of a hilarious case because it's not as beloved as I think a lot of people like to remember. It was pretty contentious for a lot of reasons in Overwatch 1. Little stuff like that just makes the game moment to moment feel. People say a lot like, can supports get more play of the games and stuff like that. I think that's a great example of the kind of thing that if we layer on a bunch of those over time, like the game just inherently feels really, really great. And then there's sort of like the medium term things, and changes to the pass are a great example of that, where we want you to be able to earn things that you actually care about. Like when we look at how people do and don't use the stuff that we make, so it's clear that people love skins and things, which should be not a surprise to anyone. So how do we make it so that you can earn those things more effectively, so that you can have some choice in what you get and be excited about like leaving a session feeling like, oh cool, I got a thing. The bigger one is sort of like longer term. What are the big gaps that we have in the game, and how do we kind of fix those? People talk a lot about like account level, and that's not really a great solve for making you feel rewarded, but it does a really specific thing in that it gives you a very tangible indicator of what you've done. It's like, hey, you did this. That, like, congratulations. Like, this is all the effort that you've put in, and it kind of culminates in this thing. So what we're looking at is an expansion on that kind of an idea where, and I won't go into like a ton of detail because the design's still getting sorted out, but we pay attention to how you play, and every game we're giving you sort of progress on different things that we know you care about because you're picking specific heroes or playing in specific queues. So yeah, we really want people to feel like the time that they spend is being acknowledged.
Important.
And some of that's going to be, through cosmetic stuff that you can earn and skins and whatever. Some of that I think should just be from like prestige indicators and things like that. So, titles are an example of that, but also like having a progression system that shows you different levels of how much or how well you've played a specific hero and stuff like that. I think if you look at all of these things together, these small moment to moment things, these sort of like medium term, choose what you want sort of things, and these longer term, hey, look at the investment that you've made in time in this game and the way that you've played, and now that's being rewarded. I think if you look at all those things together, it can create a really compelling experience. And so when I think about our goals for the year, making the game feel more rewarding is like the top goal. Not like the top goal. It is the top goal. It is the thing that we really need to nail. Because when new players come in, if they don't feel rewarded, they're going to leave. And people who've been in the game forever, if they continue to not feel rewarded, they're going to leave, and that's totally justified. So we have to fix it.
I love to hear that. It's
interesting.
Really great answer, and it's great to hear as well that it's
not
like an easy solution.
I'm actually
the community we can be guilty.
I'm both really surprised and kind of happy how candidly they're talking. They're not. This feels a lot less PR-y than in the past. Don't get me wrong. There's a little bit sprinkled in there, 100%. But in the past, it always almost seemed like kind of robotic. This kind of is some point blank no bull. Like, this is what we're looking for. Yeah, people want skins, but also it's not really the price. It's just they want to feel rewarded. And it's like, whoa, like there's actually
like almost being falsely nostalgic and feeling like, oh well, if we just brought back this like on fire, or we just brought back 6v6, or we just brought back portraits, it would all be
Six
fine.
v
But
six.
it's great to hear that you guys are looking for like long term, like holistic solutions and like multiple things to make the experience better. So that's great to hear. Now, my next question will go back towards the battle passes, because you guys have mentioned obviously again that you're going to be putting legacy credits into the battle pass. I'd love to ask you, and I want to be thankful to you guys for answering these tough questions that I've got here. But how come you don't give premium currency in the battle pass? Why legacy credits? Why not premium credits? Because
Okay, here's the answer. I'm going to tell you the answer before they even say anything. If they do that, they're not going to sell as many battle passes. They probably have data on this. They probably already know. Then at that point, they're no longer incentivized to put stuff in the battle pass. They just put the good in the shop at that point, and in the battle pass loses a lot of its value very quickly.
Feel like, and also another question I'll add on to that is, a lot of people feel like if you compare it to some other games, you can play the entire battle pass. If you buy it once, you get enough credits to go again. Why does any system like that not exist in Overwatch alongside potentially premium credits?
Yeah, I can take this one, and yeah, look, I realize for a lot of these questions, right, like there's sort of an easy answer in some ways of like, oh yeah, like we should do that. But I think all of these things are making different trade-offs and trying to kind of consistently try to make the best decision for the game overall. I'm gonna start sounding like a broken record by repeating like none of this is ever set in stone, right? But that is real. Like when we launched the game, we did so with one set of information, and these are the types of things that we'll continue to look at. But just going back, like maybe to before we launched, I think maybe it's helpful for people to understand like how we thought about this at the time and the reason why we made that decision. And so really like we looked at that approach, right? Like we've seen it in some other games. And we really had kind of two concerns with it. One was that like if we went that route, we would then sort of be in a place where it was like our incentive in a bad way to make it really hard to complete the battle pass. Because if you have a battle pass with that infinite loop, and also like a lot of people are completing it, then you lose that other goal that we've talked about. If we do want the battle pass to be one of the things that is helping us fund ongoing development of the game and support the team, and so you get to this spot where you're making decisions to make like challenges really hard to complete and obscure things, or your tuning experience way down. Where the place that we're in, like our goal is to just make the battle pass feel fun to complete, and we want players to complete it. And so like, one of the measures that we look at each season is what percentage of players who bought the battle pass are getting to the mythic skin. And like one of our goals is to make sure that number is really high. Like we want players in that system to get to the end of it, to feel good about that, to earn all the rewards along the way. And so I don't necessarily think
what do you think that number is?
Approach is outright better than the other. Like there are clearly good elements of going the other direction, and then I think the things that we liked about the approach that we chose was it let us tune the battle pass in a way where we want players to complete it over the course of the season.
Hot take, I think the Overwatch Battle Pass is actually one of the simpler ones to complete. As long as you do the dailies and weeklies, you get an unbelievable amount of XP. Granted, getting to level 200 to get all the other titles is hard, but just to 80 to get the Mythic really is not that hard.
And then it also meant that we could put a lot of our best stuff in the Battle Pass. Like we have our Mythic skin at the end of the Battle Pass instead of in the shop, in part because we made a decision to have that be kind of the culminating reward of the pass instead of you get to go on a loop. So
and if it was looping, they wouldn't want to do that.
Again, where like we get that there are a lot of strongly held opinions on both ends of it, but that's sort of how we ended up where we did, is wanting to choose a path where our focus was on making the battle pass rewarding and fun to complete and putting a lot of good stuff in it.
And just to add on like one minor thing to that, I think I was talking to one of the designers the other day about our pass and about some of the ideas that people have for features. And the way that he framed it to me was, we basically started with the most basic version of a battle pass that you could possibly find. Like we started with sort of the very straightforward, very easy to understand and kind of like engage with version of a battle pass, and this is like just the beginning of where it goes from here. And so what are the things that are in it? Like, we're already expanding on that. The how does it like actually appear in the game? If you think about other games with battle passes, they've all changed the way that their passes work like 10 different times. And rather than try to like jump to the end,
Okay, that's actually kind of true. Like, a lot of games do that. I don't think people understand, like, it can change, but I would be very, very skeptical to see if the premium currency made its way into the battle pass, just because there'd be so many ramifications for doing so. Like, what John said was actually really, really, like, very smart, very high level, because by not having the premium currency in the battle pass, you avoid what happened in Overwatch 1 with the loot box system, right? There were a lot of people that bought loot boxes, but like, realistically, of the hard, like, the player base that actually played Overwatch a lot, nobody really bought loot boxes. Like, everyone wanted loot boxes back because they never spent money on loot boxes. I had, like, at the end of Overwatch 1, I think I had like 3,000 loot boxes. Emong had like 15,000 or something wild. Just like, so many loot boxes at this point, you literally couldn't count them. And the reason why that was good for us is because we got tons of stuff for free. It was great. And people want to go back to that because it was like a much easier free system to farm stuff. But like, what they're saying is that, yes, they could go that route, but then they're no longer they're incentivized to make it harder. They're incentivized to put stuff in the shop. That's how you get Apex having its battle pass. Like, to be honest with you, I've played Apex not that much, but I played like a decent amount. Apex's skins in stuff, to be honest, to me, are kind of dog. Like, they're not that good. I think Overwatch is still like top of the industry. Like, I think Valorant is kind of catching up in a little bit. Valorant actually has been doing a great job with like their weapon skins and stuff like that. And I think Overwatch could pull ahead again if they decided to go the route of like getting rid of just gold guns and doing like camos and other colors and more customizable things on your weapons apart from the skins, which I think would be really, really cool. But the thing is, though, is like, that's how you have the Apex heirlooms where they're $500. It's like, that's the route that could happen if they want to put things towards the shop. So it's like, to be honest with you, the battle pass thing isn't that bad. I would be very surprised if they ever changed it, but
what some other game is doing, I think we're sort of starting at the beginning with our own sort of audience.
But it can change. That's the point.
Well, what do people actually like and want, and how do we make that work for them?
Bishop,
right?
thanks
like,
for the 5 gifties. Appreciate it, buddy.
I think there's this perception that like we make a game that's just for us, and like obviously we want to make a game that we love, but like we're making a game for players, and that kind of feedback coming in about what they do and don't like about the pass, or about what they do and don't like about the shop experience, that's the kind of stuff that we have to take into account to make a game that people actually want to play over time. So yeah, I want to like underscore, this is like the V1 of a battle pass for Overwatch. There's a lot of room to grow.
That's very fair, and I think, I appreciate you guys being so honest with us, because I know this is an area where, as a community, no one's ever going to be happy. Ultimately, anytime you take people's money from them, they're not going to be very happy. But I appreciate you guys being very fair about it, and I think that what you've said does make a lot of sense, and we do have to find a balance. It's great to hear that you want people to complete the battle pass, because I agree that we don't want to make a situation where you're kind of trying to sandbag people from completing the battle pass just so that you can earn more money and keep getting more people to and hoard the good stuff away from them, right? So keep getting people to spend on it. The final sort of monetization.
Well, I actually like I do like, just coming back to something you said too, like maybe this is unrealistic, but like we actually do want people to feel happy when they choose to buy a battle pass. Like, we want people to look at that and say, like, that's the best $10 or whatever your local currency is that I've ever spent. I feel like this is awesome. I'm getting a ton of stuff that I want. Like, I enjoy playing this game, and it improves my experience enough that like this feels really good. So like it is maybe at times an impossibly high bar, but like we actually do talk about that. Like, we don't want to be like prying money out of the the hands of our players. Like, we want people, when they choose to spend money, if they do, like to
here comes the cap spam
about that, or at least as good as you can when you're choosing to spend on something.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about jumping in to say the same thing. It's like the mantra that we need to have, and that like I learned years ago from somebody, and it kind of changed the way I thought about free to play games in general, which is like you want people to be excited to give you money for a thing that they love, and it's like when I buy, when you like get that like endorphin rush of you bought a thing that you've been wanting to buy for a while, and you're like, I finally got it. Like I got new headphones because mine were falling apart, and I was so excited.
They are nice headphones
because I knew I was going to get something that I'd valued.
I've been thinking about that recently.
Like we never want it to feel like you're like begrudgingly handing over money to us for a service. Like we want you to be psyched about the thing that you're spending your money on, in the way that you are when you buy something that you are like pumped about it. I was going to say the mall, not that people go to malls anymore, but like when you go to a store or whatever. If you
go to stores,
if you go to Amazon. So yeah, it's really important to us that we get to the point where people are excited to buy things that we make because they're awesome. Like we sit in these reviews where we look at all the content that's coming up for future seasons, and like our internal team chat is like blowing up with people who are just like, I want to buy that today. Like I want to own that right now. And that's the experience that we want players to have. And if we're not there yet, then that's totally understandable. But the goal is to get there because it's good.
I'll say that the one that really got me recently was the Wrecking Ball crab skin with the crab walk emote. I'll give you that. That's one I actually looked at and was like, wow, I want to buy that actually.
Good for the community, it's good for players. But it's good for us too. Like it helps us do the thing that we need to do.
You've dated yourself there, Jared, by mentioning this outside place and mall. I mean,
remember malls?
Yeah, what is a mall?
What is one of those? Is that, can I buy Fortnite skins there? No, everyone listening is terminally online, so you haven't understood your target audience yet. But you'll get there. You'll get there. You're new. You'll get there.
Oh my god!
I'm not gonna get there.
I believe in you. I believe in you. I mean, the last question I want to ask, related to kind of just battle pass stuff, is another final pain point. Is the heroes inside the battle pass?
Oh, this is a big one. This is actually the important one.
55 to 45.
This is
the hero.
Okay.
But again,
hot take. Skins and stuff like that in free-to-play games are always optional. Granted, I think that there should be fun progression systems. I think there should be ways for people to earn things. And I also think that it's still scummy to try to farm the Overwatch 1 skins for money, because like that was like, like that was a different game, right? That was supposed to be a different game. It was supposed to be a different time. And, I actually think that that's the route they should have went further sooner with like, free rewards and for logging in, for drops, stuff like that. Like, boom, 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 boom. You could have like a year's worth of like Twitch drops, in-game earnable stuff just from Overwatch 1 stuff alone. But they obviously tried to farm it for cash too, because it was 1,900 credits and coins. So like, yeah, that's a little bit of a gray area. But realistically, the only thing that actually matters is the hero and the battle pass, because that is gameplay. That affects gameplay. So I'm very interested in this response.
You kind of give us a bit more insight into why are the heroes on the battle pass, essentially? Like, why aren't they just available? Because this is obviously a completely new thing in Overwatch, and it is a pain point for people to not feel like they can play the hero immediately.
Yeah, I think this one too, right, like, is trying to strike the right balance with that system. And I think when you look at, like, Overwatch is its own game, right? And I understand. I've seen our players make this point. Like every time that people are chatting about this, and they're like, "Well, like League of Legends does this, or like Apex does that, or Valorant does that." Like there is a very valid response to that of like, "Well, Overwatch is different," and I don't want to discount any of that. But as we were sort of looking at free-to-play models for releasing content, like in part because Overwatch is different. We wanted to get that balance right of using the hero releases to like align with our broader goals of supporting engagement for the game and the battle pass system and all of that, while also
we're 5410, right? 5410. Okay, yeah, we're good.
Like making it and creating a very clear path for anyone who just plays the game to be able to access the full cast of heroes. And so that's like part of why we made the adjustment we did in season 2 to pull Ramatra up 10 tiers, was that we went back after season 1 and looked at that data for Kiriko and said, yeah, that actually missed the mark a little bit on balancing those goals. And
so what is the goal then?
Right? Like the reason why we calibrated the challenges, like if you don't get to tier 45 for Ramatra this season, next season you unlock a Ramatra challenge that just asks you to play and win games of Overwatch. And like part of the reason that exists the way that it does and how we've calibrated it the way that we have is like we don't want to be in a system where players constantly feel like they're playing catch up or missing wide swaths of the hero cast or whatever else. So again, like definitely understand some of the sources of frustration for the way that we've implemented that system and the desire for like, hey, all the heroes should just be free. Like we get that, or I should say, like not just free, but like free and immediately earnable. But like in season 2, we saw someone get Ramatra on the second day of the season for free. So like there is that path. That is not how I recommend playing Overwatch 2. To be clear, like I would guess that player actually chose not to sleep until they unlocked Ramatra. But yeah, we've tried to strike the right balance there. Again, I think this is a place where
most sane Overwatch player
to iterate and adjust over time if we need to.
Yeah, this is like the warning that used to come when you play the Nintendo Wii, and it says you should take breaks every half an hour. Like that's one of those for that guy who's like second day grinded his way to the battle pass. And again, I appreciate you guys being fair.
We do not encourage that behavior.
You know, I think the systems you put in for unlocking heroes after the end of a season is actually quite fair. Like it's quite straightforward. People were doomsaying a little bit, but it's actually quite straightforward how you can get it back. Okay, so let's move on from battle pass shenanigans to the upcoming season 3, which I know we're all excited about. So it is going to be we spoke about heroes on the battle pass, but this is actually going to be the first season of Overwatch 2 without a hero. So I know you guys have said
it's going to be a very interesting answer.
Heroes are kind of the biggest hype moment generator for Overwatch. How do you envision kind of this season going? Like, how do you plan to offset that potential loss of hype and getting people to still come play Overwatch season 3?
So, a little background here. They've kind of come out and said that there's nothing that gets people going more than new heroes, right? Like, new heroes is what brings people back to the game more than anything else. So, season 3 is going to be the first test, in my opinion. I mean, I think most people's opinion. I think anyone who looks at this analytically goes, hey, season 3 is going to be the first test, to see are they going to be able to bring back players to the game without a new character coming out. So I'm interested to see what he says. I wonder if they've also, I mean, I know they know that there's going to be some challenges with that, but I wonder if they actually talk about it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a learning experience, that's for sure. The short answer to your question is I think we're just going to get kind of weird. Like we're gonna try some stuff and see how it goes. Like
we're gonna get weird.
The reality of where we're at in development is like we can't ship a new hero every season. It's just not possible. And if we did, they probably wouldn't be at the quality bar that people expect, right? And so we'll continue to figure out the right cadence to release heroes on, but now the assumption is we can't do it every season. And so we have other big stuff, right? Like we have maps that drop. We have new permanent modes that will drop. So we do have other big stuff that people should be excited about in future seasons. But for this season, we're going to start experimenting with some stuff. Like you saw returning events in the last couple of seasons. We're going to try some new stuff. We're going to try.
Battle for Olympus was cool. I wasn't a big fan of it personally, but I like that kind of stuff. Lunar New Year though was a joke. Like that, to call that an event, I think is like the biggest stretch of what the word event is. That's I think what people have problems with, not with stuff like Battle for Olympus.
I like want to say a thing specifically that I can't say yet. We're gonna try weird stuff, and if it lands, if people really like
John's losing it. He definitely knows. I mean, he does know, obviously.
If you look at the events that we've had so far, like these are these big moments that we want people to come back and engage in and like really have a good time. I think we've learned a ton just from the few that we've run so far. So if you look at the Winter Wonderland challenges being something you could we added a skin to that, and then you could complete the challenges in like an hour and a half. I did it over lunch and got the skin, and I was like, well, that was probably a little bit too fast. Did not feel rewarding.
I did too. Like it did not take me very long.
Like really good long tail chases, or at least
okay. I had
if they're really good.
I might have had ethical snipers, ethical stream snipers. I think we did it in how long was it, Chompy? Like 25 minutes. Tops like 20 minutes. It was completing the event was really not that hard.
I thought they were pretty fun, like long tail chases for titles, but people felt like they had to get all of them, and so it was just like, why am I grinding this mode? Which is a fair question. if you look at Lunar New Year, having to play a lot of CTF Blitz, not great for everybody. I don't think that everybody loves that mode. Like some people do, some people don't. For events and things like that, we need to experiment with the kinds of things that we put in them, the modes, the way that you can earn rewards, but also like different themes and making them, I think, a little bit more accessible, like giving you the opportunity to earn progress towards that cosmetic or whatever that thing is that you're chasing, without having to play the event mode specifically. And so there's a bunch of stuff
interesting.
Like that
That's
kind of
cool.
All over the place answer, but the gist is, we're just going to be putting a bunch of stuff in the game that we think is cool, and we're going to see how people like it. And then if they love it, we'll do more of it. And if they don't love it, then we'll learn from that and do something else. But every season's going to feel a little bit different, and we want them to have their own identities.
Yeah, this sounds sort of like...
Oh, did you hear it at the end, though? I heard the sprinkle. Did anyone hear the sprinkle right there at the end? We want every season to have their own identity. Oh, that's been drilled. That one's been drilled in there.
Cryptic than we probably intend for it to be, but like players.
The rest was awesome, though. I'm being nitpicky.
Talk much more specifically about like what's coming in season 3. Some very real examples that kind of fall into that. Like I think one of the differences in approach that I think we're taking with some of these things in Overwatch 2 versus, if you go back years ago in Overwatch, like in Overwatch, every one of the seasonal events had to be like, they were relatively infrequent, and they had to be this like massive thing that had like multiple game modes and like fully took over the game for a long period of time and was like the thing that you do. And I think what we're trying to do, and you saw some of this with something like Battle for Olympus, but you'll see more of it in season 3, is like, what's a fun, different, cool thing that we can just try that's like not supposed to be something that holds players' attention for a month, but is just like a fun, different way to experience Overwatch, that gives players some of that joy and excitement. And so that's some of what we're doing in season 3, on top of all of the like, the new map is awesome, we can't wait for people to dive in, like I'm sure like people will have strong opinions about this, but there's like another really big balance pass coming in season 3 that should shake things up. And so there's a whole bunch of the usual, like, we're starting a season, there's reasons to be excited about that. And then on top of that, we've planned a bunch of stuff that in some cases, like, I think feels smaller, but is still cool and exciting, and something we just we want to try, and we'll see if players like it, and if they do, we'll do more, and if they don't, we won't.
Yeah, I think just to like underscore that, the fundamental approach difference is key. Like I saw a lot of people commenting on like an event will come out and they'll be like, oh, that's it? Like that's all? And I'm like, yeah, because I think we're still fighting against perception of what events either are in other games or what they've been traditionally in Overwatch, where we want to do these things much more frequently with like much more varied themes with a lot of different ways to engage. And like that means doing them fast, doing them small, keeping them on for just a limited amount of time. And like, it's a totally different approach than we've taken before. I guess I should also say that, like everything else, if people end up hating that once they get used to that, if it's not what our players want, then we'll rethink that approach, and we could always shift back to bigger, less frequent things. But coming out of the gate, it feels really good and exciting for us to know that we have a bunch of stuff that's like going to be happening very soon that we'll see players' reactions to. So yeah, I hope that people really enjoy it, even though there's no hero. And we have a pretty dope lineup of heroes coming, so there's a lot to look forward to.
Don't.
Okay, so I have one thing. I actually kind of disagree with that. I understand what he's saying, but like, big events versus small events, and like, do they wait a long time and do these big events, or do they do a bunch of smaller events? But I don't look at something like Lunar New Year, and I don't think that's an acceptable event. Like, all they did was turn the lights on Lijiang Tower. That's it. Like, realistically, what else was that event? Bounty Hunter? Who cares about Bounty Hunter? Like real talk. Like, people don't even know how Bounty Hunter works. I don't even know how Bounty Hunter works. I actually didn't even get the weapon charm, the little bag weapon charm. Like, I genuinely just didn't care enough to queue in my 1,000 hours of Overwatch. I didn't care enough to queue the 2 Bounty Hunter games to get it. It just doesn't, because it's just not interesting to me. And that's also just reused events. It's just capture the flag, Right. It was like, what? Capture the Flag? I can't even play Capture the Flag competitive because of my Overwatch 1 MMR. Like, I tried to play Capture the Flag competitive with Emong and Seagull, and we couldn't hit the Q button because of our Overwatch 1 Capture the Flag MMR from 3+ years ago. Come on, dude. That's ridiculous. So, when you say stuff like, maybe the community isn't used to them yet, but at the same time, though, I don't think I think that's bullshit because you can't even experience the whole event, and the whole event isn't much to experience. Granted, I think things like Battle for Olympus, Halloween event, major W's, but top 500 player problems. I mean, did you really realistically be honest with me for a second, because you said it's top 500 player only? Did you look at the the Lunar New Year event and say, this is a good event? This is definitely a good event? No, I think you're absolutely capping with me, and you're just trying to, top 500 problems, lol. It's like, dude, come on, bro. There's no way you can look me in the eyes and tell me you thought that was a cool event. They literally just flicked the lights on Lijiang Tower. Come on, man. If you were already, even the one skin that was supposed to go out, if you already owned it from Overwatch 1, you still got nothing. So nothing across the board. So that's bull. I'm not hearing that noise today. Not today. Granted, though, I am interested in seeing what they have. I want to see new events. I want to see things spiced up. I do think they absolutely can deliver. And I'm hoping that a lot of these events up until this point have been kind of like holdovers, because the launch of Overwatch 2 was not the cleanest, and they've had to rush to do a lot of things. And we've seen the dev blogs recently, how they're addressing ranked, and they're addressing like very core issues to the game before they maybe go to like better events. Who knows? I could be huffing that copium. But I genuinely, I kind of just disagree with that.
Don't tease us, Jared. I think it's fair. I think it's fair to say that I guess we got to shift our approach. So rather than having one big chunk of drops of like content, we're kind of looking at a new model where the content is like kind of constant and a little bit more small than perhaps players are used to, especially compared to like Overwatch 1, like you said, John, where it's like the whole season was like this massive thing, whereas now you're kind of looking to give us something to do all the time.
I don't even think the Overwatch 1 events were that big, though. Like, real talk. Like, I think that's what you got people scared with that. Is if you look at Fortnite's a good example of what a big event is. Like, they have concerts, the event goes for like 30 minutes while you sit there and watch like some special show, and then like it launches it, and like they've done so many different things. Like, for example, like bringing old weapons out of the vault, and like players across all servers are sitting there hitting with their pickaxes to try to like break it open so they can unlock it. And it's like a vote across all servers. They have concerts. They had like the literal Marvel movie Thanos versus the Avengers battle, where you're just sitting there basically being a spectator, and then the whole map gets changed, and like something blows up, and like a meteor comes out of the sky, and then Goku comes out of the clouds, and you're Hame, and you're just like, oh my god, what's happening? Like, Overwatch's event is surprise. Here's 5 new Halloween skins in a Halloween loot box that goes when you open it. Like, that's not the same. You can't sit here and tell me that's what a big event is, because if you tell me that was what a big event was, absolutely not. Don't even take me anywhere near that. Give me the small events constantly, because that's bullshit. If you talk about big events, you're going to compare them to other games. Fortnite, I think, is a great example of like the top level of what a big event is. But even scaling it down to other games like Valorant doesn't go crazy with events, but they are much more hardcore focused on their gameplay. They're much more hardcore in tune with their community on these types of things. I don't think they go over the top with it, but it's very high quality a lot of times. So I'm just saying, though, I don't think it's unfair to say that they're going to be compared to other games, because these free-to-play games are your competition. Even as a streamer, if you are not a good content creator, right? Like, if you sit here and you just only play the video game and you never try to be entertaining and you play with no cam, and you sit there and you just play the game, and you don't talk to like your chat. You never try to be entertaining. You don't make tips clips for TikTok. You don't make YouTube videos. You don't try to expand. You don't try to be better at what you're doing. You're not going to go anywhere. And then it's not the stream's fault. That's your fault for not putting in extra work. And if you look at other people around you and they're putting in the work, they deserve to succeed. You know, like it's the same thing in this industry with games, where if all these other games are putting in all this effort to make these cool events and get players to come play their game, and you don't, you can't be upset about that. You can't sit there and go, well, you know, they're comparing us to other games, and you know, not sure if that's fair. It's like, it's absolutely fair. It's on the table. It absolutely is. And I really do hope they realize that. It doesn't have to be to Fortnite's level, but I think this is a very unhealthy way to look at events, and think that something like the Lunar New Year event was a good event.
We have to adapt to as the community. I also loved how collective hearts were in mouths there, Jared, as you started to speak on the Blizzard end, where it was like the 3 Blizzard community managers were in there being like, no, Jared, don't do it. John was probably holding his breath like, don't, Jared, don't leak something. Don't leak something.
There's certain things that you see that you get really excited about, even as a developer. Like, it's easy to get jaded, I think, as a developer, and it's like, I've seen these before. And every once in a while, you know, I'm not trying to oversell anything, but every once in a while, something is just really exciting to you personally, where you're like, oh, that's like, I can't wait for people to see that and hear if they like it or not. And we have some stuff coming up that I feel that way about.
Sounds
That's
good.
Great to hear. Actually, that leads me to a little tidbit that I just wanted to get a feel for, is like, what is the kind of spread of how much you guys play on the dev team, and like what is the kind of spread of experience as well? Like, are some of you hardcore grinders? Some of you are just like, I kind of play when I can. Some of you are like, I only play mystery heroes and I only care about the skins. Like, what is the spread like?
I never play mystery heroes. John,
he's not a Mystery Heroes Tuesday enjoyer,
and I play very differently, I think. So John, you can go first.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll speak to me. Like, I
am sending a tweet later at Jared and saying we need to get him on board for Mystery Heroes Tuesday.
Tier 93 on the battle pass this season, something like that. Like, I'm not gonna.
Wait, it's Tuesday too.
Prestige titles, but I badly wanted the Mythic Queen skin, so made sure that I got there. Like, I have 2 little kids. My kids are 5 and 2, and so. I would guess that, you know, much like Jared's mall reference, there's probably not, you know, a ton of like people with small children listening in right now. But for any of you who have had that experience, I genuinely hope you're impressed that I've been completing my battle pass. It's like, it's hard. It's like very, very, very hard to get, you know, even 15 minutes uninterrupted for a comp game. So I'm the type of player who like tries to pop in most days and play for an hour to complete my dailies. And then I don't really grind out much. And I'm also quite bad at Overwatch, I should add. So you'll find me like feeding on Ryan and Moira mostly.
Oh God!
But our team like is all over.
John, how do you play the chattiest of Ryan, but also play f***ing Moira? Come on.
Place. I think there's this like misperception out there a lot
TikTok
of like,
Moira.
do the devs even play the game? Like, how could you possibly like make this decision if you
spitting.
play Overwatch 2?
Hold on.
And like, our team loves the game. We all play it. We have team-wide play tests like multiple times a week to check out stuff that we're doing. It doesn't mean that, you know, every decision we make is going to be right or reflect what most or all of our players want. But like, there's, you know, throughout the dev team, there are some hardcore grinders, some incredibly skilled players, and then, you know, some people that are, I think, more casual as well, which just reflects the nature of our community more broadly.
Yeah, I'm a little bit, well, I guess I'm kind of the same. My kids are 5 and 8, and so it's also hard for me to find time, especially now that, like, you know, my son's getting into video games more and more, and my daughter is becoming a little teenager at 8 years old and just constantly wants to like talk about stuff. So it's harder for me. I'm like 86, I think I hit last night in the battle pass. I'm also probably not going to grind super hard for the titles because I love last season titles. This one, they're just not for me, which is fine. Like, titles are cool, but not everyone's.
You don't want the Titan title? I actually kind of agree with that.
Pretty broadly, like, I don't really play comp because I've worked on a bunch of competitive systems, and like When you know how they work, it can either be like encouraging to you to continue to play them, or it can be like, you see behind the curtain and you're kind of like, all right, well, I don't need some computer to tell me how good I am. I'm just going to enjoy and learn the game.
I can 100. Okay, I know what he's saying, but I also understand how people could probably take that as, oh my god, he doesn't want to play his own comp game because he knows it's so skewed against him. Oh my god, no. I don't think that's what he's saying at all. So like, don't take it that way. Don't take it that way. I think it's more of just like, when you already work on so many things with comp and you think about so many other factors, it's just exhausting. Because like, realistically, I don't really play a whole lot of games off stream anymore. I play some games, but ever since being a streamer for a few years now, I don't do as much gaming as a hobby as I do on stream anymore. So I'd assume it's somewhat similar.
Played a lot of different champions. But I play pretty much every night. I try to play like players, and what I mean by that is I try to not play like a developer where I like kind of like really narrowly focus on stuff, which I think people can do sometimes. I try to play across PC and console so that I know the console experience.
Whoa!
And PlayStation.
That's awesome.
So like every week I'm playing on all three of those things to some extent.
What?
And
Dude,
also
that's
I try
sick.
to really heavily engage in our events just to understand what people's pain points are. And so for something like Lunar New Year.
Did anyone notice he said all three, by the way? He did not mention Switch. No one should ever subjugate themselves to playing Overwatch on the Switch.
Which I was playing, and you just capture the flag fan or bounty hunter. It was like a little bit more challenging for me personally because I was like, this is just stuff that I wouldn't really love. But that also helped me understand why people who don't love those things are like not an event for me. So yeah, I'm like more of an omnivore, I think, than John. I like to spread my time across a bunch of different heroes and across a bunch of different ways to play.
That's totally fair. I think because Jared, you've come from an experience of a lot of working a lot of competitive games, or particularly FPS. You worked on League, I believe. You worked on Halo as well. So
Yep.
you've kind of been through the meat grinder. I think after a while, you kind of start to be like, I'm feeling this now. I'm starting to get old, and I'm like, I don't know if I got it in me to keep grinding for these fake comp points, man. Like, I don't know.
I mean, there's also this like mental health part of it for me, just really personally, where if I sit down, like, you have a long day at work, you're like in meetings constantly, and like you're fighting the good fight and making stuff happen or whatever. It's like, I'm an introvert. It's like emotionally exhausting to do that. Then I leave work.
I relate to Jared.
2 little kids are like up in my grill trying to talk to me about stuff, which is great, but also exhausting. And then, I'm hanging out with my wife and like, okay, I'm going to have an hour to play games. If I sit down and play a comp game and just and lose,
Just gonna get flamed first game and lose.
I'm probably gonna go to bed mad. And like, I'm not trying to go to bed mad every night. Like, I want to be able to enjoy the game. I want to wake up excited and like. So I'll play placements. I'll try to understand the experience as much as I can. But like, have you ever looked at my ranking?
Holy shit!
It sucks because I don't play.
Holy shit, dude!
Because
oh
I
my god!
Want to like go to bed happy without stressing myself out about.
Don't play ranked to go to sleep. You're gonna go to bed mad.
Personal decision for me, but also I worked on matchmaking for
dude, look at John. John's fucking losing it at the top. He's like, oh my god, this guy's saying don't play ranked.
Rank, if that's wait,
hang on. Wait, what do you say, hon? Oh, sorry.
But also, I worked on matchmaking for 3 different games before this, and so it's I've been through it.
Whatever makes you feel better about your low rank, if that's the story that you.
Oh my goodness!
This is gonna make me grind comp next season just to throw it in your face. This is exactly what's gonna happen.
I want to see a challenge. I want to see a little community challenge now. Who can get higher rank, John or Jared? I want to see you guys post your screenshots of your like competitive placement and just like.
I'm just saying, Jared, John. Hey, you know what? Hey, my door is open. I think. Well, what was Andy? I think Andy was like silver, and then we told him we told him about the woes of the TikTok Moira, and I think he hit plat the same season. Hey, I'm just saying, dude. Hey, I know a thing or two about a thing or two.
Like tag each other and just start a war amongst the devs. See who gets better. Get good, kid.
I love this, and I hate it so much.
Very bad idea.
Yeah, but
I think I think it's a great idea. But I think it's very fair. Like your guys' perspective. A lot of consumers, a lot of people, even watching, I think, will be in your guys' position where maybe you don't you know, it's hard to complete a battle pass when you're battling your children. So I totally get that. Okay, so
God damn it,
I know
SVB.
everyone's really excited to hear about PvE kind of stuff, and I know you guys can't give me any. I don't expect you to give me a trailer for what the PvE is coming. But first, can you just give us an indication of like how much of dev resource is allocated to PvP versus PvE?
This is a great question.
Because some people feel like
Holy
PvP gets neglected for the PvE.
Yeah, great question. It's exactly this number of people. I'm like, I can't give you specifics, but what I can say is like the biggest drought I think in Overwatch history in terms of content and engagement with the community was around the time where the team was really focused on making and shipping
2020
Overwatch 2, and a big component
2022
of that, was obviously PvE. I think what the team learned from that, and this is obvious to everybody watching the stream, I'm sure, is that was a mistake, and like the core of this game is the PvP game that everyone's playing. Overwatch players love PvE. Like, we know that because we're Overwatch players. We know that because we do a bunch of surveys and we ask people who are not us just to sanity check that perspective, and we know that like players love that variety.
it was 40.
But the core of the game is PvP, and so what I don't want the perception to be, because it's totally not true, is that like there's only minimal people on the PvP side of the game, on like the core live game that we have today, and everybody is just on PvE. That is 100% not the case. Like the primary focus, like I gave a presentation about this to the leadership team last year. Like the primary focus for this year is supporting their players, like not supporting future players or the dream of future players who want to come in and play something else.
That's very important.
That we have today. Like
that's very important.
That are there day in and day out, because if we don't do that,
I will say it has felt like for a while that it's like the newer players, and a lot of people have been talking about that recently, and that events and stuff like that are very much catered to new players, which is kind of, it's like almost like they don't care about us anymore. So that is a very important thing, and I think that could be echoed even more than it currently is.
There is no game. There is no Overwatch. There's no Overwatch team. There's nothing else, right? And so yeah, I can't go into details, but the gist is the PvP team is fully staffed and funded, and we're hiring aggressively for it and everything else. PvE also staffed, has people working on it, but it's not a PvE is the primary part of the team, and it's not a situation where we're going to take everybody from PvP and move them over to PvE to get it done and out the door.
John,
a little bit of a non-answer, which I acknowledge.
Yeah.
So
wow, dude, I'm not gonna lie. I am very blown away by the amount of self-awareness. Even when that was 100% a PR kind of answer, and then he just came out and said, "Yeah, it's a PR answer," but like, what do you want him to do? Do you want him to just say it and then he gets fired? Like, obviously can't say it. Like, very clearly aren't allowed to say it. That is like the professional way of, I gave you as much info as I can. If I speak anymore, I would get in trouble. Take what I gave you, which is f***ing awesome.
Are not cutting resources from PvP to deliver the PvE.
Absolutely.
Okay, well that's good, because then now you can't use that excuse either, right? So now there's no more like, oh, we're broke devs, guys, come on, the bugs, broke devs. No, we got you.
Small indie company, yeah.
Small indie company. I'm glad you guys are aware. Hashtag aware.
No way. Dude, John's losing. I love it.
I asked this
honestly, dude, my favorite part of this so far has been listening to Jared's responses and then watching John lose it. Like, just it's so
hope,
funny.
You've kind of mentioned that PvE is going to be rolling out in sort of stages, right? It's going to be like a bit part. Some people were maybe assuming it might all come at once, but it's not going to be like one giant campaign. Any indication of when we can start to expect it and what the rollout might look like? Like, what kind of rollout will we expect? What frequency? Anything you can give me?
I woke up today and I was like, John saw this on Slack. I was like, I feel like this is a thing we like. I really want to talk about this more. And here's the reality of the situation. The reality is, people have been thinking about and talking about PvE for years.
True.
And I play it. I have been playing it. I was playing it last week, in fact. And it exists. It is a thing that is being worked on. It's pretty rad. But when we announce it and when we start talking about the details of it, like, because the expectations are what they are, I think we need to give it the space that it deserves to like really go into, hey, Aaron said this in an interview recently about having to kind of reimagine what it looks like and how it comes out. You alluded to some of that. I think we need to give it time to like really talk about like what it was, kind of what it has evolved into, and why we're excited about that, and then
it's evolved into.
And so I wish I could give you more of an answer. Like I realize that that's not great, but the gist is that we'll be talking about it. We're talking about how we announce it and the way that we roll that stuff out. So it's not like we're sitting on it. We know that we said that we would be, doing a thing this year, and the intention is that we'll be talking about it, as soon as we can.
Yeah, I think there are some places, right, where like it's just easier for us to talk about things where they're further ahead and we don't have a specific like this is exactly what we could say. Like, talking about how we have some early design work going on like progression systems in the game and things like that. And I can't tell you right now exactly what those will look like or whatever else, but we're still comfortable sort of saying like that's a priority for us and we're working on it. I think for some of the PvE stuff, just particularly given some of the expectations around it and everything else, like we want the next time that we talk about it to be specific and here's what we're doing. Smart. And what players
very smart,
and not like stringing along more of the soon TM or whatever else. It's like we want the next update on it to be substantive.
Yeah,
got you.
To be honest with you, to a lot of people that's probably going to be a non-answer, but like that is the best answer we could have gotten, for a few reasons. One, they pretty much just acknowledge that they understand the pressure that's on PvE. Like, technically it got shown off and announced at BlizzCon 2019. There was already a mission that was made to show people. So let's say development at least 2018 minimum. It's been development for 4 or 5 years at this point. People probably expect a lot out of PvE. And there's also a lot of people that blame the end of Overwatch 1's failure, like that year or two of really, really bad times, 2020 to 2022, on the PvE. So it's like, oh, this better make up for it. So they understand that pressure, and they do not want to talk about it until it's ready, and they're like ready to basically give people everything for it. Because if they talk about it early and they give any pressure leaks out of that, people could really start jumping on it and be like, oh, like what the heck? Like, they haven't, they're not even done with it. Or the worst side, this is it. Like, that's all they're going to talk about. Like, that's all it is. Like they've been working on it for 4 or 5 years. What a joke. There is very, very little room that they could probably talk or do anything with PvE until it's completely finished without people having a meltdown. So, to a lot of people that was probably a non-answer, but that was actually a great answer.
It's a difficult position. I only asked out of hopeful expectation, but I understand that like if you're not at liberty to talk about it now, then I'm sure you guys don't enjoy not being able to talk about it, but
it sucks. It like legitimately sucks so much.
You can tell they're excited for it too.
There's this like shift that's happening, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but like there's a shift that's happening where I think communication traditionally was like, here's this thing, it's amazing, and it's like baked, basically, like you can look at it, it's done. We're trying to move more towards, talking really openly about stuff as it's in development. Like, I think the best games are the ones that are made with their communities, as opposed to like given to their communities. And so,
wow, that's a very strong sentence right there.
We want to talk about it more, and I think we're getting better and better in small ways about talking about stuff that's not fully done yet, and just helping you understand the reasoning behind it. Like Aaron starting the like quick updates that we started last week, like that was because he and I were like, we have to start talking about stuff and not be so precious about everything having to be final. And so we're going to keep doing more of that. But there are some things like this where I think if we did that, like the speculation would be so wild around it that
I think he means with
probably do a disservice to.
So he doesn't mean with PvE. He means with PvP. Like PvP, they're trying to shift towards the talking more. PvE, they just don't say a fucking word for now
to what we're working on. So. It like kills us inside to not be able to talk more openly about things like this, but sometimes,
which makes sense. The PvP is already out. This is where they start to get their legs. This is where they start to talk about stuff. There's a lot less of a risk to talking about PvP stuff more openly, as opposed to PvE. If they talked about PvE, like, oh my god, that could fly off the rails so fast.
Those listening can sympathize as well with, put yourselves in their shoes. Speaking of, I would really make sure your cybersecurity is on point right now, Jared, because having told everyone you have access to play the PvE, you've now made your computer the #1 target to get a hold of, so people can play some PvE for themselves. You mentioned communication there, actually, and this is something, we've actually kind of interacted on Twitter a little bit, and you spoke there about wanting to find better ways to communicate with the community. Like, what is the kind of solutions that you guys have? Because obviously we always go back and forth with this. In the past, the accusation was, well, the devs just go silent on us. They don't say anything. You guys will come out and say, well, we will try more to communicate, but then the community will be like, this is not enough. This isn't substantial enough. It isn't clear enough. So, like, how are you viewing your communication going forwards?
Yeah, this is
Good question.
There's a fun anecdote that involves John. When I first joined the team, I was talking about giving some sort of an update. Oh, I wrote like a blog right after I joined. I was like, I have to start talking to people because like there's this inertia that gets built up when you don't say something, and you're like, well, the next time we say something, it has to be perfect. And so I'm like, I'm just gonna start saying stuff, and then hopefully people are okay with it, and then over time we'll get better. But you have to start building the muscle. And I think it was in that first blog where I made a comment about like, we're committed to communicating more or something. And John looked at me.
That's awesome.
Like, don't say that. Like, that's been said so many times. Like, you can't just tell people you have to like do it. And he didn't say it as eloquently and as like cool as I just did, but just imagine him saying it in his very
Threw him under the bus. Oh my god!
Took that to heart, and I'm trying to like not make promises about communication getting better. Instead, I'm just trying to show. And so to answer your question specifically, I think you'll see it take a few different forms. We're starting with like the scrappy versions where, I'm writing blogs, Aaron is writing these consistent updates that we want to be bi-weekly. I think it said every 3 weeks or something in his first post, but we're shooting for bi-weekly. And we may get a bonus edition this week because there's some cool changes that are like in direct response to community feedback.
We're going to get like a 4th blog post this week?
So there'll be small things like that we just need to get into that habit, like really build the muscle of consistently delivering. And if he can't make it 1 week, then I'll jump in, or I'll have Alec or somebody else jump in. Like we'll this is where we're starting. And then the team that does this professionally for a living, we have, who are all awesome.
Wait, I just realized
have bigger, grander ideas for things that will kind of grow into over time. And so we've experimented with stuff like Twitter Spaces, doing shows like this. Like, I think we want to just try a bunch of stuff, see what works, not be so like beholden to like Jared's boomer idea of what it means to communicate with people, and instead like put ourselves out there. And so I think what you can expect TLDR, a bunch of small, scrappy, quick communications like what Aaron is starting to do, and then a bunch of bigger, longer form things that we try a bunch of stuff with.
Love it. Yeah, I mean,
I'd also just add,
man, I don't know, I don't want to blow up Jared's spot, but like, I just want to say he means that. He means that. He really does. I'm telling you. Like, yeah, he's saying it right now on this podcast, but I'm just going to tell you right now, I don't want to blow up his spot too much, but he has sent me a very heartfelt message before, talking about communicating with the community, and it meant a lot. I understood what he was saying, and so I just want you to say this isn't just like a PR, like he's talking about it. He means that. He does.
To like, I think one of the hardest things in terms of how we communicate with players is just like getting comfortable sharing things that are not always fully baked or certain. And I like Jared's alluded to this. Like, I actually think it will help us make a better game to tell our players we're thinking about this and get input and feedback at that stage instead of ta-da, we made something, we hope you like it. But I think like there's some risk there, right? Of like, we're all aware on our side of like, every time we do something for the game, there's like someone on Reddit who's like, well, 4 years ago, like this person said this thing that's not that, and what happened. And so like,
listen to me and listen to me well. Stop reading Reddit. It is a bad idea. You're just gonna make it worse. Don't stop. Only time it'll be acceptable is to watch Seagull's reaction to blog posts and Reddit. That is the only acceptable form of listening to Reddit.
The trick for us is just having to be comfortable with that's going to happen. Sometimes, if we're being more open and communicating more frequently, like we're going to say stuff or talk about we want to do something, and then the reality of development is like we're not always going to do all of those things, or we're not going to do it exactly the way we said we were. But I think it's then on us to like come back to our players and say, yeah, you know, that thing that we talked about a couple months ago, like we're doing something different and here's why. And I think as long as we can hold up our end of the bargain there of not just sort of sharing things and then players wondering 2 years later, like whatever happened to that thing that Jared said, then hopefully we're in just a better spot where we can communicate much more frequently and clearly.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and this is somewhere I guess that the community has to be, it has to be a back and forth, right? So you guys, if you're more community, I think as us as the community, we have to make sure that we don't jump down your throat if you say something and then change your mind. You know, it has to be a bit receptive. So I'll say what you guys can't say, which is that, guys, give up on Reddit. Please stop, and please stop being I won't swear with the devs around, but please stop being a so-and-so and be a bit human. I think that's the best we can expect for. On that note, though, on community interaction and feedback, what is like the best way for us to feedback to you when we have grievances, when we have things that we want changed? Like, what is a healthy, respectful way for us to get our opinions out to you?
Tag Jared on Twitter.
Yeah, just at me literally all the time. Please don't do that.
I was going to open up and tweet about Mr. Heroes Tuesday.
Maybe 2 hours on the weekend. That's it. The answer is kind of weird here. It's basically like keep talking on social media, keep talking on keep doing shows like this. Like people like you amplifying what your communities are telling you is also really helpful, right? Like getting that kind of filtered through creators, I think is super valuable. The thing that I want people to keep in mind is like Overwatch is a global game, and I think people in North America, you know, where we are, and the social media we look at is North America, you know, like day to day, right? For me and John, it's easy to think like this is the community. The community is not North America. The community is not the UK. The community is global, right? And so,
True.
You know, we're listening in every region. We have people paying attention to social media, kind of across the world. So keep saying what it is that you think. Try to be nice if you could and be constructive. Like saying this thing sucks or it's broken or whatever is like not super helpful, where you could be like, hey, this has this impact on me and I don't like it. Like that makes it really actionable and cool for us. He screamed into the void. No,
have they ever talked about that and talked about like how feedback is better, like received, and how to like how they actually use feedback? Have they ever said that before? Because I've heard that before. But I don't know if they've ever said that before. But that is actually very, very important. It's why when people kind of just like rage bait and just go like, this is broken, like nerf whatever. It's like, okay, what a part of it is actually you don't like? Like what part of it? And it's like they're just like, just nerf it, and it's like that's not helpful. You know, it's like what part isn't good? I'll give you a good example. People have talked about Suzu, right? And some of the people's feedback on Suzu Cleanse is the ability to not interact with them. So, for example, Doomfist, right? If you go to punch someone with Doomfist and they Suzu, you just fly straight through them. That is someone giving feedback. It's like, hey, I don't like that I can't interact with them at all during Suzu. That's like that's a point of feedback that you don't like. I think that's pretty decent, you know? But that's different than, oh, you should change Baptiste Lamp to 23 seconds because of this. And it's like, I don't think that's very helpful. So that is actually very, very important. And that's actually how I think stuff gets done or looked at faster. It's actionable feedback.
The other big thing is, okay.
No, carry on. Please carry on.
I was going to say, the other big one, and this is going to sound kind of silly, is just like, and this is not me shilling to play the game, but I'm saying when you play the game, that's another good source of data for us to understand what it is that you like and don't like. Like we look at Q health all the time. We look at things like engagement and what people do with events. We look at things like hero picks and what people are playing and not playing, and like actions speak louder than words in a lot of ways. And so, you know, it's good to hear what people think and to get that feedback, especially when it's wrapped around how it makes them feel or whatever kind of more subjective things they want to apply to it. But also being able to marry that to the data that we see in game is like critical, right? Because people will often say a thing and often it's not exactly how they behave or how they act. And so, you know, the best way for you to give us feedback is tell us what you think, you know, play the game the way that you want to play the game, and you know, let us look at it all and try to figure out what the best path forward is. And again, like engaging with creators is great because, not only is it awesome for you all, but it's great for us because then we get to hear a bunch of different viewpoints kind of filtered through one voice.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And again, I'll say what you guys maybe can't say candidly, which is like,
I think I said that one time, was like talked about why like creator feedback's actually not bad, because a lot of times it's not. Yeah, obviously there are biased ones you have to filter through, but a lot of times it's way easier to listen to one voice than it is to listen to thousands of voices, because it doesn't become voices, it just becomes noise.
yeah, I mean, I understand frustration. I've been there, but like obviously the more angrily and the more mean-spiritedly you scream your feedback, the less likely a human being is to respond to that. So I guess it's on us to be a little bit fair. I want to get like a couple really quick questions in because I know we're about to run out of time. If you can't answer, then feel free. Obviously the situation in China, I'm sure you guys are not thrilled about. Is there any news, like, because I know that's out of your control, but that's like a potential impact for a large section of the players. You talked about your audience being global. Anything?
Yeah. I mean, the thing that I'll say is, I mean, this is probably going to be really obvious, but like anytime that our game can't be played by people for whatever reason, like going free to play is entirely in service of helping as many people as possible play the game. So anytime that can't happen for whatever reason, that's frustrating to us. Like we want the game to be out there. We want people to be able to enjoy it. I don't think there's anything else we can say about that situation. Like it is so totally removed from our work on the dev team. Like we have no kind of like say or interaction in it. And all we really hope is that
that's some
eventually everyone
corporate suits like miles up the ladder.
That's fair. I appreciate it. It's
like on Activision, not even Blizzard.
Get that publicly there as well, that it is out of your control. Workshop anytime soon?
Oh, man.
John, please talk about it.
Yeah, it's coming back in season 3. We'll have more info about that, but it relaunches in season 3.
Wait,
thank you
for just dropped that.
I was like looking through our comms.
I feel like we should have talked about it maybe sooner, but yeah, that's coming back.
And and just to like talk about a little bit of the like, we wanted to make sure that we had good moderation and reporting tools in place for kind of the updated version of the thing, and we know that it's frustrating for people. It's as in any game, this is usually like a really small.
That's really cool.
Group of folks who create stuff that a bunch of people get to enjoy, and so like we want to support them.
Wait, oh my god, I never even realized how many free-to-play players are probably listening that you're new to Overwatch 2. If you don't know what Workshop is, the custom games browser sometimes has like funny, wacky game modes if you haven't tried it. Those are community made most of the time, and so the Workshop was a feature in Overwatch 1 where you could basically edit almost anything in the game that was like not assets. So like you couldn't give Genji Ryan's hammer, something like that. You could change all the numbers. You could change like camera points of views. Like you could have like basically like Mario, like almost like type of like platformers. You know what I mean? Like you could build so many cool things in there. And it made so many ways for the community to express itself and have fun, like Flappy Mercy. Yeah, there was so many cool game modes. Some actually, which me and a few others have been talking about playing recently. But a lot of cool stuff. But when Overwatch 2 came out, the Workshop wasn't functioning, so you just had to use Overwatch 1 codes. So if anything needed to be changed for Overwatch 2, you actually couldn't do it. It wasn't possible because you couldn't do Workshop modifications. So now you have all these new players that have never got to play these cool game modes that are going to get to play it, maybe even explore new things. Like Doom Parkour was a big one. Maybe you can bring Doom Parkour back with the new Doomfist, and make new challenges and cool stuff. So I think that's going to be really, really awesome. So that's actually kind of a major announcement to be made an hour and 26 minutes and 55 seconds into a podcast.
This is, I think,
I guess technically there was a stream before this, so maybe like 45 minutes.
We should have been more communicative about what was happening, but the feature's been planned for a while, and like it's coming out. We hope everyone enjoys it, and we'll be keeping an eye to make sure that we can keep moderation tight, and if bad stuff crops up, we'll take it down, and so we get to the point where we have like a really thriving Workshop community again.
Amazing news. Yeah, and I saw Beth being like, "I will update comms now." So thank you for giving us that little bit of information. Again, quickly, experimental.
Future
any
Beth had to
chance
do
of that
some
kind of stuff
work.
coming back to experimental card.
Or sorry, past, I
We've
guess.
talked about a couple of
Yeah, I guess it was
ideas
past.
around it, but nothing concrete. Like I'll be totally honest. I don't think we have plans in the near future to do much with it, but that doesn't mean that we won't. And if I'm forgetting something, team, I apologize. But
Yeah, again, I understand. I appreciate it's like a resource priority thing. So, okay, we got workshop. We didn't get experimental. We take the dubs, chat. We take the dubs. Okay, so my final question, because I know I've taken your guys' time. What's the like number one thing that you guys want the community to know? And I don't want us, to be like we're listening. I really want you to kind of give us your like personal flavor of like what's something that just from a dev side, which you can't normally say is like, guys, we know you hate this, whatever. So okay, we got it. Or just please do this. What you got for me?
what's funny was the when I was thinking about sort of like if I could convey one message to people, what would that message be? My first idea for that was "we're listening," which is like, no, shut up, stop. That's like so cheesy. John kind of said it, so I don't have any spice here. I think the thing that I want people to know is like we actually play the game. Like we love it. We play it more than like a casual player would. Like we're in there every day, seeing what you see, and if something seems off to you or seems weird. I guarantee it has been discussed by someone on the team and either is being worked on or there's a good reason that it's not happening. That's not going to be true 100% of the time. We make mistakes, but I think that's like really important for people to know. We have our own internal chat where people provide feedback, and a lot of what goes in there is very similar to what we see from the community, and I mean that in a positive way. It's like people are calling out and reinforcing things that are frustrating for them, and that's the kind of stuff that we want to take action on. So no one has to believe us. Like we're not entitled to your belief, but I do want people to know that we play the game and we care as much as you do because we're actually players. I've been on teams where that is not true, and that's really depressing. That is 100% not the case on this team. Like this team is made up of people who love Overwatch.
Love to hear.
Yeah, you took
That is true. That is actually very true.
my my cop out answer as well, which is true, by the way. Like we actually are trying to listen, but given that you've disqualified that,
I knew John's response was going to be "we're listening," and Jared actually just completely him, and I love it.
I think my other answer would be just like calling back to something I said before, which is like we're launching season 3 right now, and our goal is like decades of Overwatch 2 content and seasons and stuff, and so like it's our job. I think that every single season we are making the game better. We are showing instead of talking about how we're doing that and releasing features that improve the game, making changes that improve the game, bringing new content that's fun for like all of that. And so like I think there's also a lot of times like something that frustrates me is this like it's been 2 seasons, why hasn't X? And like on the one hand, I have that lived experience. I play the game too. I also like am very happy that it's going to be 5 wins to get a new comp update instead of 7. Like that was frustrating to me. But on the other hand, there's also just when you look at the development reality, like there can be a whole bunch of things that we want to make better about the game. The team is working hard on, and you're not going to see for a little bit. And we're on this sort of long-term, like every season should be better. And I think that's the goal for us. And in some cases, it's not we can change that thing tomorrow, but rather we know we have something that we need to prioritize, and we'll continue to make better as consistently and quickly as we can.
Yeah, I want to be doing shows like this from my retirement home. Basically, like I want to get to the point where we have such a like long-lived community and like a game that kind of transcends time, whatever cheesy thing you want to say, that like we can all enjoy it together for a long time to come. And I think when I think about the game in terms of like, is everything going to be fixed in season 3? Is everything going to be fixed in season 4 or whatever? I mean, the answer is no. Everything will never be fixed. This is like the way that these games work is they're constantly a work in progress. People change, like the way that they play games change. The games market changes and expectations change. Like we have to be adaptable to that. And so when I think about the game, I'm like, a year from now, what do we want to be true? And then if that's what we want to be true, then how do we get there? So thinking about making the game more rewarding is a good example of that. It's like a year from now, this game needs to feel amazing in terms of being rewarding. And we get there by doing 20 or 30 things along the way. and so it's going to be an incremental thing. But yeah, I think just thinking about this in the long term and knowing that we're here for the long haul is good for people to keep in mind.
Hey Jared, our community team has relayed an urgent message from Twitch chat. People would like to know your dog's name.
Yes, I was gonna say, please, can you do two things for me, Jared? Can you tell us the dog's name, and can then you please go pet it really quick, because it has been a very good boy and it deserves it.
Yeah, hold on, I'll be right back. His name is Archie. He's 11 years old. He's a French bulldog. Hold on.
Archie. Love it.
Aww.
And I really do. I know Jared can't hear this. There you go, guys. The dog. Yes.
Yeah,
yes!
say whatever you want now. He can't hear you.
Yes. Pet the dog. Yes. I mean, no, I just wanted to say that I'm really thankful for you guys for giving me your time. Both you, John, and Jared. Oh, my goodness. What a dog. And I really appreciate you guys being here and being so honest and being so upfront.
Stop talking about him now. He's back.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, sorry. Okay. Arrested Development, bad show.
John's fighting uphill trying to get back.
I'm sorry, Archie. But
yeah, he sleeps 23 hours a day.
Same. That's a vibe.
Oh yeah, there we go. He's walking out. I think that's probably our show then, right?
Yes, I think so. So I just want to thank you so much again. Great to know you guys invest in the long term as well. I mean, a retirement home Overwatch crew is both nightmare fuel and dream fuel. So hopefully more of the latter, less of the former. Thank you again so much for being communicative with me and giving me your time. And yeah, I hope everyone's appreciative. Everyone's enjoyed this. And yeah, anything you guys want to say before I let you get going? I know you guys got meetings.
Yeah.
Should I shill for? Yeah, I'll shill for season 3. Season 3 starts in a week. You guys should come check it out and play. It's gonna be awesome.
Oh my God,
yeah,
John!
Thank you for playing at all. Thank you. I appreciate the time, and thanks for having us on. Like I love doing stuff like this, and so the more we can do it in the future, the better.
I love it as well. I love having you guys here. Thank you so much. And please start a Jared versus John rank war. Who gets higher rank? Season 3. Let's find out. It's all the chips on the line. Let's go. Thank you very much, guys. Peace out.
John with the corpa clap, dude. Corpa clap at the end. God damn, dude. All right, that was actually pretty good. We actually learned. We learned a lot more than I thought we were gonna. If I'm gonna be real with you, I thought they were gonna come in and be like, "Yeah, we're trying to make prices better, but we're following data, and we'll see you then." But they kind of also just hit us with the, "Yeah, we're gonna try to make things better for like rewards, like actual free rewards, because we're not doing enough with those. But pricing actually isn't that bad. So cope." That was actually a very, very, very interesting podcast to listen to. I thoroughly enjoyed that.